You'll have to do it live.
I'm gonna. I already know what I'm gonna talk about. It's gonna be great. All right.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Game by Show podcast. Guys, it's January the 16th, 2022. My name is LeGrand Jolly. This evening, opposite of last week, Dale is gone. However, we are rejoined by Jeremy Lamont. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. Good to be back. Good to see you all here on youtube.com/GameByteShow.
That's right.
And on our podcast for you on-demand people, too.
Yes. Jared is also here. Hello, Jared.
Howdy.
Who did you wave to? Oh, the YouTube audience.
The YouTube audience, our thousands of adoring fans.
We're still trying to figure this out.
Cool, man. Well, hey, I'm glad you guys are back. Dale and I had a great episode. Some editing problems, because, well, Jeremy usually edits this thing, and he does a great job, and I don't. So,
frankly, it's just music, and you can go to youtube.com and find some music or something. Just listen to some video games. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're the main show here.
It's true.
We're who you're here to hear.
We're the reason
it is
you're here. Is for our sweet dulcimer tones.
That's right.
Anything new? You guys have been gone for a couple weeks.
I came back and it's still like dreary January. So thanks for nothing, you guys.
Gross.
I tried, man. I really did.
Hey, how about this, LeGrand? Just for you, we'll get the Outlands update out in the intro, so you won't have to listen to it in the games I've been playing. I hosted a tournament of Justice a couple weeks ago. Biggest turnout ever.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was big. It was awesome.
Well,
there was a whole new.
Did you slay? So you typically these tournaments you do different things. Like you've done archery, you've done like single combat, you've done all kinds of things.
This one of the developers, I'd been talking with him, actually the lead programmer for the server, and I guess he got back from Christmas break and was just looking for something he could do to get back in the swing of it, and decided to make a jousting system that we'd been talking about. So we used a whole brand new jousting system.
Wow.
And they made like a server-wide announcement, and it was pandemonium. It was so busy. Anyway,
so like 12 people or so?
We had, I want to say like 22 that entered, and maybe double that were hanging out, causing chaos and whatnot. So it was good times.
Cool.
Good times.
Well,
Tournament of Justice.
Jeremy, I'm happy to report that we've been bamboozled by Jared.
It just happened again. I thought we talked about this.
We did.
No,
and
it's
like,
you guys talked about it, but I never agreed.
Excuse me.
Listen, I will hand it to Jared. He has been really focusing his creative impulses into this, and I approve of that, even if it's really getting long in the tooth at this point. No, but that's good. Good on you, man. I think that's good that you've got a little thriving community there.
It's good stuff.
It's good.
Man. It's good stuff.
It's good.
Cool. Well, speaking of good stuff, I have been playing.
What you been playing, LeGrand?
Well, listen, guys, it's been a week. Okay, it's been a week, and if you listened to the show last week, which you two were not on, I played a lot of things. This week was no different. But I'm not going to talk about all the things. I did play Heroes of the Storm.
Okay.
I did play Hunt Showdown.
Okay.
I did play Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
And I did play Final Fantasy 13.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now that joint is on Game Pass now.
That's where I played it. Yeah.
Nice.
I ran an HDMI cable to my big TV, my 4K TV in my office, and played it there with the controller, right? I'm playing with an Xbox controller. And Final Fantasy 13 is a game that I played on the PlayStation 3 a long, long time ago. I got pretty far in it. I didn't quite get to the point where the world opens up, as I understand that it does at some point. I didn't quite get that far, but I feel like I was at least 20 plus hours into that game. And this time, I started playing it yesterday, and I played a little bit more today, and I probably played 8 hours. Like over the last couple of days, I've played a lot of a good amount of Final Fantasy 13, and I really like Final Fantasy 13. I think it's a good game, and I think it's one of the Final Fantasies that doesn't get a lot of attention. I don't think a lot of people really liked it. It isn't more. People don't talk fondly of Final Fantasy 13 like they do of 12 or of 10 or of 9 or 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 or 4, 3 or 2 or 1 or 14. It's probably the least popular besides 8. I mean, 8 kind of gets a little bit of ire from now and again, even though I really like 8 as well.
I like 8.
Final Fantasy 13 seems to be the one that people don't even talk about liking 13, like ironically, right? Like people will say 8's great. I love the junction system, ironically, right? Like it's, but they don't even do that about 13. But I will tell you that I really like that there's a couple of really cool things that Final Fantasy 13 does, and a couple things that I feel are a little lacking. I think that the story is really interesting. However, the presentation is a little quick and unrefined. It's a little like things just happen and suddenly there's a thing, and there's not a lot of development early on. There's like some background, cool lore and history and world building that's happening, especially if you read like the data log. But the characters themselves, while they get development, they kind of throw a lot at you very, very quickly in the very beginning of this game, where you have like that character Hope, who his mom dies, and now he's pissed off, and he's gonna go find Snow and tell him, give him a piece of his mind, you know, and all that stuff kind of falls a little bit flat. But in the overall, the way that they kind of present some of these characters, it's like they dump in about, I don't know, a big chunk of character building in a very, very small, short amount of time. And I think that is a detriment of the character. I think the characters are great, but in this case, it feels like that early part of the game just kind of feels a little off somehow.
I think I would concur on really in kind of in different ways on exactly the same things. I found that the broad thematic story of the games has some really interesting things to say about stuff like free will and about, you know, and it's got this really interesting sort of narrative backdrop, like the idea of Pulse and you know, the Lassie and Cocoon and all of that. So it's really interesting, and it's totally different from like any other. I mean, maybe I would say that maybe on the family tree of Final Fantasy, I would say that this one is probably a sibling with maybe 10 or something like that in terms of
feel.
But like you're saying, kind of the moment, like bring the camera in a little bit to some fine focus stuff, and the dialogue is a little clunky sometimes, and like you're saying, like
I'll tell you, I changed the dialogue to Japanese because the English dialogue just fell flat, you know. It's just like, I'd probably enjoy this better if I was just reading it than and so I actually did that today and enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, I have to pay attention more. But
and so that I would sort of say like, well, you know. But then to your point about the characters being interesting, I then found, you know, when I kind of tried to synthesize all of this narrative stuff, and you know, visually it looks good. Musically, it's one of I have to think about this before I say it, because Final Fantasy as a series is steeped musically in just like really great audio. But the soundtrack to Final Fantasy 13 is going to be in my top half, I think, of my favorite Final Fantasy games. As far as music,
I can approve of that. The main theme is really good.
Yeah, and like the battlefield, like there's a lot of stuff that this has then seeded into Final Fantasy, like the combat system. You know, the idea of staggering has become. I mean, at the time, if you remember the criticisms of Final Fantasy 13 at the time, there were maybe three big ones. One was the fact that everything was corridors, right? It was like, oh, Final Fantasy is supposed to be, you know, broad, wide open, but if you know, historically, I don't think that tracks. Honestly,
it doesn't. After Final Fantasy. Well, that's the thing, is like Final Fantasy VII, the first 8 hours is very linear through Midgar, and then it opens up to a world, but you're still traveling from point A to point B.
Like you are the hallway, the width of the hallway changes, you know, during the course of the. So that was one of the big criticisms. I think the characters also being just kind of like I don't think you've gotten yet to Fang and Vanille. Maybe yet those characters you probably.
Vanille is the very beginning. Fang I have met, but I don't know her name is Fang yet.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Spoilers.
But I do.
Spoilers. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the characters I think were the other big criticism, and then and the
people
combat
didn't
system.
Like Vanille because she's kind of an annoying.
She's like
14-year-old. Yeah, but and that's another thing that when I changed it to Japanese, like I don't like lightning English voice act. It's like oh, I'm so moody and angry. Like when I changed it to Japanese, I'm like, okay, this is more of a stoic. Like a hero, you know, warrior. The tone of, and I don't know Japanese, but just the feel just felt more,
the delivery
more right to me. And then the same thing with Vanille, even though Vanille still has that that chipper attitude and her speech pattern. It's still, and that kind of reflects as well in the Japanese. But to me, like hearing it in English was more grating than hearing it in Japanese. I didn't understand.
Yeah,
right? So
no, I'm with you.
That really helped a lot doing that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But I was just going to comment that some of that stuff, like the combat system, some of the things that people criticized at the time have found their way and kind of filtered through to latter day Final Fantasy stuff. Yeah,
in Final Fantasy 13, the paradigm stuff is really cool.
Yeah, I think that was. I remember that it was kind of mixed on that. I think some people felt like they were really detached from the combat, like the decisions that you make. And I can see there's a little bit of a second derivative thing when you switch your role or like a paradigm.
Well, the difference is you're only controlling one of the three characters, and that's the case in Final Fantasy 15 as well, for the most part, right? You can give commands, but it does actually a really cool thing because it gives you total control over your character, right? And as long as you've like cast Libra on an enemy or like a boss, your supporting roles will track that.
They'll know what to do with it.
They'll cast spells and things like that that they may be vulnerable to the boss or whatever. So it kind of makes the pacing of the battles a little bit quicker, which I can appreciate. If you remember, I mean, listen, everybody loves and likes to talk fondly about turn-based JRPGs, right? But my opinion is I don't want to do that anymore. And this is about as turn-based as I want to do because it's actually pretty fast. And you basically say auto battle if you want, and your guy will just do what his role should do in that moment. And so just to kind of drop this really quick, and I don't want to dwell too much on this, decade-year-old game or 15-year-old game at this point, but the paradigm system, your characters will gain multiple roles, and you can basically build out a group of 3, and you build out these different sets of roles across all of them. So you have like a caster and a tank and a melee damage guy and a guy who casts debuffs, and you have all these different roles, but a character may have multiple roles. So you spread them out into these, what they call paradigms. And then in the middle of combat, you can swap out. So you can have like all of your characters just doing a ton of damage, and then you swap out to heals, to make one character be a healer when you need a heal. You want to. Anyway, it's a pretty unique system, and I actually quite like it. It doesn't force you to specialize, but it kind of does. Every character kind of has their preferred role, it seems. There's a few characters that are kind of more spread out where they have multiple pathways they can take. But anyway, I'm really enjoying the game, and it basically what it came down to, and this is how I'm going to rope Final Fantasy 14 into this discussion. I've got to the point in that game where the end game is me playing through the raid on a weekly basis to get loot drops, because you can do it. You basically, the way that the loot works in the raids at end game, this is the stuff that I didn't know about, but I can't wait to see what end game Final Fantasy 14 is. Well, basically in the raid, there's 4 different bosses you can fight right now, and you can get 1 piece of loot per boss per week. And that resets on like Tuesday. So once I've got a piece of loot off of a boss, I can't get loot off of that boss again, even though I can run it as many times as I want, as often as I want. I can only get loot once, but I'm guaranteed to get a piece of loot as long as I put in the time playing it. Anyway, so I'm kind of just doing that. But I really wanted more Final Fantasy in my life for whatever reason, right? But I didn't want more Final Fantasy. I didn't want the grind of an MMO Final Fantasy. Right? I wanted a Final Fantasy story and feel and music and characters, and Final Fantasy 13 has been delivering that to the point where I paid 8 hours in the last 2 days. So I'm really liking it. I would like to say that I'm going to finish it this time and then move on to Final Fantasy 13 too. And then if anything, like
you got that whole Fabula Nova Crystallis.
Oh yeah, baby. I played like 400, I think I'm at 700 plus hours of Final Fantasy 14 now on Steam.
Wow.
I don't know how much my character actually has, but if I could do even a fraction of that over the next 6 months, I could play through all Final Fantasy 13, 1, 2, and 3. I think I might want to do that. We'll see how this playthrough turns out, but I'm having a good time doing it, so I'm going to keep plugging away.
Yeah. And there are other alternatives too. One of my favorite games last year, Scarlet Nexus, is like
I played that. It was fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there are some real parallels there between what's in Final Fantasy 13, that series, and what's in Scarlet Nexus. I mean, some of the mechanics and the thematic things are a little bit different, but that style of game, I think, has persisted.
Yeah. So there you go. Final Fantasy 13 still good, by the way.
Not
Holds
bad.
up. On PC, it looks great too.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was
Looks
only
great.
recently in the last like 5 years or something. I think came out.
I think
on
it's the
PC.
last just few years. I don't think it's even been that long. I don't know, but anyway,
I remember them.
Yep.
Well, I this week, or actually, I guess the week before, technically, it's been a couple weeks now. Played something that I didn't realize had come out. This is also on Game Pass. Thank you, Game Pass, for bringing us the Game Bytes Show podcast for like the last year.
They don't have Final Fantasy 13-3. Lightning Returns. Is that what that
Lightning
was called?
Returns.
I have beef with Game Pass.
Oh no, maybe we should hear about the beef first. We should make this a beef sandwich.
The stupid PC app won't even work. Like it opens it, I can't do anything. I can't
Don't
even close
use the
it.
app. Xbox.com/play and then just write off the PC stuff. You just will never play it.
I've never had a problem with the PC stuff.
It doesn't work. I can't get it to work. I can't even play Age of Empires 4.
It actively maliciously bogs down my system. Like sometimes my hard drive will say like 0 bytes remaining, and I'm like, what? And I'll go and find out that, and I looked this up, and it's a combination of like the Xbox app or the, what, I don't know. So someone at Microsoft is building stuff that ain't working right. Well, anyway, the game that I played is something that I think when it was first announced or we saw trailers for it, people were like, "Woo! Like I really want to try this." And it's a game called Lake. Do you guys remember the trailer for Lake? Lake was a Lake was a sort of a low energy mail truck
sounds like it.
Postal delivery game that I think we saw a year ago or something at like the Game Awards or something. And the idea is that you play as a woman who's returning to her sort of her childhood home up in the mountains of like Oregon or something like that. And this town is situated around a lake. And she's taking over for her dad who had retired or something or went on vacation. And she's dealing with the mail delivery service for this small lake town. And that's it. And that's the premise. And it's on Game Pass. I guess this thing came out like last September or something like that. Because I think,
oh really?
Yeah. When I saw the reactions to it, and I also was like, oh, that looks really different. Like, ooh, indies are doing indie things. We're gonna have a mail delivery game, and maybe it'll be interesting. And I guess what I thought it was going to be was something kind of like what people say about Shenmue. If you've ever heard, I don't know if anyone's ever played Shenmue, but it takes place over like a very small area. But within that area, it's like extremely fleshed out, detailed. People have their daily routes that they go on. You can dig around in, and this was on the Dreamcast in the very late 90s or early 2000s, where you could mess around in drawers and desks. You could open everything. It was very immersive over a very small scale. And I thought that Lake was going to be that for this. I thought we were going to have, get to know the people in the town. And actually, if you remember last year, I talked about a game, The Good Life, that was by Swery65, the guy who did, I'm blanking on the name, but the one that was like Twin Peaks, Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition. Oh. And that one actually did have that sort of thing. And it was sort of a low poly, like not a super high fidelity sort of game. And it did have that where over the course, it works a lot like Harvest Moon, kind of. And I thought that Lake was going to be that. And it was going to be like super narrative. And you're going to learn a lot about the world and yourself and, whatever. It turns out that it's actually just not a very good game. However, it is very highly reviewed, which I find confounding because mechanically it is not much better than just like a fetch quest. Like all of the things that in a video game you would say, oh, I hate this part where I'm just supposed to go from here to there and like hit a button when I get to the mailbox and drop off the mail. So there you can do letters, which will just happen automatically if you on a daily route. So it progresses through a number of days, 2 weeks, I think it does. And as you do the mail route, you have every day different distinct sets of deliveries you have to make. So there's going to be all these letters around town. Some of them are on the far side of the lake, which is like, you just got to drive over there, drop off the mail. The mail is easy because it's just you go up to a mailbox and you hit a button and you have delivered the mail. Packages, though, sometimes there are packages. And you have to go to the back of the truck and you have to select from a menu the particular package that goes there. You've got to make sure that you look at the address. The game does keep track of the street names and it kind of tells you where you are, so it's not horrible. But you've got to walk to the back of the truck. You got to carry out whatever it is. Sometimes you'll have other quests, like there's a cat lady in town, and like one of her poopsie little kitty cats is like feeling ill, so you have to go take it to the veterinarian or something because you're the only one who can do it. So you basically are just kind of moving back and forth between different places and kind of just hitting buttons at different places to do things. The game, in terms of driving around, is not much more than something you might get in a Grand Theft Auto, but not as well implemented as Grand Theft Auto. So the first thing I did when I started realizing, like, oh, this is not going to be, my elegant indie experience, I'm like, this is baloney. And so I just started goofing off a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to crash into and I thought, like, maybe it was even set to the point where if you crash, like, oh no, there would be a problem. Nope. You can crash into anyone and, like, no problem. They'll just kind of keep trying to go. I'll get to the point where if your truck stops up against, like, I've run into oncoming traffic, and then, we just kind of like crunch and stop there, and it'll reset it. And the funny thing is, the reset, like, puts you on top of the car. So then I'm like rolling, like, giant monster truck over the top of, some car. Like, it's just kind of a little bit silly. And I might, I might not be giving this game a real fair shake, but this has sort of been my play experience. The other thing, and I guess kind of the the main thing that you're actually doing, because it's not literally just putting mail in the boxes. You talk to people about stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you've moved back here," and you're like, "Oh, haha, well, this also takes place in, like, the late '80s or something like that. Like, there's sort of a period element to it, but it doesn't really factor in that much that I can tell. There is a video store that you can go to, and they have, like, all sorts of parody. It's like it's like a Blockbuster. It's like a VHS rental store.
Cool.
And they've got, it's and actually my daughter was playing with me.
What is that?
And so the thing was, she was like, "Dad, like, looking around at the movies is probably the best part of this game." And I'm like, you're probably right.
It's not the same browsing through Netflix.
Like that, yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is that she also was like, "Dad, this game is probably not good, right?" And I'm like, no, it's not good. But comparatively, going to the movie store and looking at, like, oh, haha, that's a parody of E.T. or something like that. She's like, "This is probably the most interesting thing in this game, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it probably is."
Very much.
So I didn't get too far. I got to, like, the third day, and I was like, have you ever just, like, eaten something and you're just eating it so that you can get to the end of it, and you're not enjoying it or whatever? So that's kind of how I felt by about day 3 or 4 in this game. And I'm like, well, something is going to get good. And I just kind of never went back to it. But looking at the reviews, because I was kind of curious, I'm like, did this idea just fail, or what is it? But if you look at reviews for Lake, people really like it. They're like, oh, they're talking about it in the.
Do they like it, or do they like the idea?
I don't know. I can't figure it out, because they're talking about things that I thought maybe I was going to get, like, oh, it's just so wonderful to get into people's lives and to, like, discover what they're about and stuff. And I'm like, okay, but no, like, not really. But I have to hand it to the developers, and I don't have it here in front of me who the developers are. But if you go to their web store, they actually have a plush version of the mail truck. So they've got a plush mail truck that you can get, and it's like this blocky
Whitehorn Games.
Whitehorn, yeah, I don't know.
Whitethorn Games, my bad.
Oh, that sounds right. And if you go to their web store, they've got, like, a plush mail truck, and I'm like, you know what? That's some chutzpah. Like, I really appreciate your initiative to get a plushie of this mail truck that I don't enjoy driving, and
I kind of want one now.
I would not enjoy cuddling, but it is kind of novel, right? Like, I'm like, oh, okay. But generally speaking, Lake did not get me interested in coming back next summer or whatever. I don't know how to make a Lake metaphor, a Lake joke for that, but yeah, it was not what I thought it was. However, it is on Game Pass. Yeah, it was not what I think everybody. And I will tell you, since I didn't even know that it came out, it didn't seem to make a splash on social media that I saw. Like, I think it just kind of it happened, and it gets a couple good reviews online, and no one really wants to talk about it. So I just mentioned it because when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that indie darling that was in some trailer, and you are a mail truck and you go around and get your nose into people's lives. Oh yeah, I want that. And then it turns out, no, actually, I don't want that, because it's just fetch quest and some dialogue that I am inclined to skip. And
man, and that game was so much better back when you were the newspaper delivery boy on the bicycle, throwing, like, papers.
Death, going off some sweet jumps and running away from death. Absolutely. I mean, this game actually could use a Paperboy mod, I think. But anyway, that's Lake. If I'm wrong about this, if you're listening to this and I have completely missed the mark, I invite you to tell me all about it. I'm on Twitter at Jeremy_Lamont. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with Lake, but it ain't fun. Sorry. Lake.
All right. Well, something that I've been dealing with Lakes.
I don't think it's going to work.
I've actually played a new game that we've never talked about.
What?
It's not even.
Right.
I mean, it's a weird game, so don't get too excited, Legrand. It is called Lords and Villains, but not like villains as in bad guys. Villains is like your serfs that serve you. It's a let's call it a RimWorld like.
Okay.
Like
the budding genre, everyone's favorite RimWorld like genre.
Yeah, it's a a kind of a survival strategy.
When you say RimWorld like, I have no idea what you mean.
Okay, have you played RimWorld?
That's an
did that game come out in 1993? Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember seeing it in magazines at the time.
You guys are garbage. So anyway, Lords and Villains. Basically,
We're just being honest. I'm asking legit questions of what I would like. When you say RimWorld like, probably
thank you for
what you're saying.
Ridicule. Yeah, well, because I played
small colony management. You have like individual characters that have so in RimWorld you have like one or two like villagers, if you will, colonists, I guess they would be, that have like individual traits. So this moves a little away from them, but instead of having like a individual colonist that has traits, you have houses. It's like a medieval like feudal government system simulator kind of.
All right.
So it's like top down, and you start on a map. You have your manor. You're actually a character, a family in the game, so to speak. And there are other families, and so like you decide which land they can own. To get started, you might gift them wood so they can build up a manor house of their own, or like a family house of their own. One house is better at, say, farming than the other. So I have set aside some farmland and made that family in charge of it. So it's like, as you play through, it's like you've got these different factions within your own faction that you're trying to kind of manage. It's actually really interesting.
So are these bespoke? Like when you play the game, is there always like this house and that house? Or
I'm still on my first playthrough, but I think it's random. They seem like kind of random names.
Okay. And are they autonomous? Like if they will just do things themselves if they have the resources?
For the most part, yeah. So like I have set each of these houses up. You decide like how much you do help them by like saying, okay, you do still do the base building. So like you build their house, you put the beds in it and stuff like that, which is maybe not quite, it makes it more engaging gameplay, I guess. But other than that. But like they go about doing their tasks. Like I have set up the farmers and built their house and gave them farmland, and they're out farming. Like that's what they're doing. The fisher people are fishing, and the scavengers or whatever they are like cutting down trees and like turning them into planks. And then you set up like markets at their houses, and they sell them to the other families, and that's how you make money, because you like take a cut off the taxes of what they sell to other families. So it's really interesting take on kind of a set genre. Like a lot of the games like Going Medieval, I know I've talked about before, and it's kind of interesting twist to the RimWorld formula is that it has 3D, right? You can build up and down. There's verticality. But this one kind of eschews that, and it goes for this sort of really an interfaction kind of approach. And it's just, I don't know, kind of it's one of those games that I'm sure it heats up as you go, but for now it's just kind of a chill game. You just kind of like sit there and you play, and I'm like building, chopping down wood, and adding this, adding that, and just kind of going through it.
Is there eventually a military component to it, as far as you can tell, or is it?
I certainly haven't.
I mean, I just wonder, because at some point they'll show you like you can buy swords.
Yeah.
Or something like
it
that.
says in their early access roadmap that the full release is going to add a new military zone.
There you go. Yeah, so I don't see that yet. So yeah, but it's really good for what it is. I'm enjoying the absolute heck out of it. And it's one of those games where it's like I'll play through and be like, oh, okay, now I understand. And throw that game away and let's play it for real this time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. Like you just have to learn by like suffering through it. Not suffering, that's a bad word, but
no, it's a little bit like suffering.
Getting through it, and then in the end, you're like, oh, why did I do all of this? Like all of this, right?
Yeah.
Usually when that happens, like that happens to me. That's why I don't play 4X games. That's the reason, is because by the time I finally get it, I'm like, okay,
I'm over it.
I don't want to start over.
Yeah,
and do this right in this Stellaris game or whatever, you know.
But yeah, it's a really neat little game. I mean, it's I'll have to say I was kind of excited about going medieval, and I've enjoyed that game, but it didn't bite into me as much as say RimWorld did. And this one I feel like is just different enough and approaches it in just the right way. I'm kind of feeling it, so I'm gonna play a little longer. Go a little further here with it, and we'll see where we go. But man, I was like, I got it on Epic. It's actually a game I bought, I guess, in a sale, and then I forgot about. And then another sale came up, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy that game. I went to buy it, and it's like, you already own this. I'm like, cool.
Imagine if they let you do the thing that you intend to do.
Oh, that'd be so rude. Jeremy'd be the proud owner of Lords and Villains.
I'd have all of it.
But yeah, no. So I'm gonna. It's really neat little game. If you're into that style of like colony management, survival kind of games, it's probably up your alley.
You're a fan of the RimWorld like genre.
The RimWorld like, that's right.
Pick up Lords and Villains.
People who have played RimWorld and really gotten into it know what I'm talking about.
They're the real ones.
Oh,
right.
They also are about the same as the population that plays UO Outlands.
The Venn diagram may be quite circular.
I don't think that's true. I think there's more people that know what I'm talking about with RimWorld than know what I'm talking about with Final Fantasy 13. Nobody liked that game.
Bold.
And there's more
statements.
people. I know UO Out. I know Ultima Online. I do not know UO Outlands. I do not know RimWorld.
UO Outlands the other day had like, I don't know, like almost
3,000
people. 3,000 people on.
Damn.
That's pretty good.
Cool.
That's pretty good. Well, I guess that's three of us. So we.
Oh yeah.
But let me talk about Outlands here for another minute. No, I'm kidding.
Here we go.
No, I'm good. I talked about it in the intro. We already went over it.
Here's my favorite thing about this new release segment we're going to do. I filled out my Rad Switch Game Titles and PCGameTitles.com segment, and then Jeremy came through and put the same games that I put on the Rad title list as the actual new release.
You know, I didn't actually notice that, and I think I've saved you from some great personal embarrassment here.
No.
How embarrassed would you have felt if you?
There's one game that isn't both.
I saw there's two, both of them.
there's two that I put on.
Shadow Man Remastered. I just kept thinking about Spider-Man Remastered on the PlayStation 5.
Oh yeah, no. So do you guys remember Shadow Man from the Nintendo 64?
Sure do.
It was like a voodoo
0%
action platformer. I was working at retail at the time, and I remember
Jeremy
Shadow
is
Man
big
came
into
out.
the Shadow Man like games.
Shadow Man
right.
like
It's a whole genre. There's dozens of them.
Dozens of us. Dozens. Ring the bell if you get that reference. And then the other one here
Thumbs
is
up our YouTube video if you get the reference.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's what you say.
Hey,
right?
everybody, it's an Arrested Development reference. Please hit thumbs up.
Damn it.
Thumbs up if you want us to tell you about what that
Shadow
is
Man like
in our next episode.
Everybody knows what Arrested Development is. There are dozens of us. Dozens.
The Never Nudes. I understand. We get it.
Okay, all right. So then the other one is Nobody Saves the World, which is a sort of a silly title, and maybe it goes on the radgametitles.com.
That's
by
exactly
the way,
where it went.
We had to change our domain registration for Rad Switch and Xbox and PCGameTitles.com. So now it's just radgametitles.com. So everybody go there, radgametitles.com. But Nobody Saves the World is the new it's the new game from Drinkbox Studios. So they're the guys who did Guacamelee and
Guacamelee 2
Space About a Blob. What was the one that was the swipey game? The one that was on the Vita and it was on iOS.
I played that game.
Yeah, what was it called? Severed.
Yeah, I beat that.
And I think Severed. I played it a lot. I didn't get to the very end, but I played a lot of Severed.
I beat the whole thing. It was
yeah, it was good.
You know my really sad Drinkbox confession? I got to the final boss in Guacamelee, and I never beat him.
It was hard. Was it?
And I
Javier?
think I never beat him because I was always playing with one of my kids.
Children.
And by the time, and it like scaled up the difficulty, but they never actually participated in the battle.
Yeah.
So it was just me trying to carry the team.
I
And
can
I'm not
carry you,
good.
Mr. Frodo.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't.
Actually, I
So-
can't. I need to rest a while.
I need you to bubble for a moment, Mr. Frodo, because oh gosh. Anyway, so those are actual legitimate new releases, but they also ended up on radgametitles.com.
It's true.
But there's
also
one game
also on Red Game Titles, Hocus 2.
They didn't even get to the Pocus.
No
I thought the sequel was going to be Pocus.
Look,
But
guys,
instead it was just
skip
Focus
these
again.
new releases and just go check out Outland's new jousting system. It's great.
Whoa.
That's a nod from me, dog.
Well, thank you to Robert Desert Eagle Allen from tech-gaming.com for faithfully, even when nothing is coming out other than Shadow Man Remastered and Nobody Saves the World.
Still doing the thing.
Also,
sure
no
is.
sales.
No, I think all the sales are off, so be prepared to pay full price until they go on sale again. So, news this week. A few items came out in the news. It's pretty quiet. I think
Very
everybody is
few.
sort of recovering from, there's not a lot going on. But there was an interview with Phil Spencer at the New York Times, which is kind of interesting. And one of the things that was picked up over at Game Informer was a little bit of discussion about, this came up 3 weeks ago when Xbox and even Sony, I think, they had circulated some memos about their partnerships with Activision Blizzard due to just some kind of ongoing I guess controversy, that's a good word to use, about the way things are handled there from a human resources standpoint. And in this interview with the New York Times, the topic came up about how Microsoft and how Xbox in particular would interact with companies that are dealing with kind of problems, because it could be publishers, it could be studios. This kind of comes up from time to time. Someone's getting canceled online all the time. So it's important to, I guess, to deal with that as a platform holder. And so it kind of came up, and Phil Spencer basically said that they're not about things like virtue shaming. He kind of indicated that Xbox has also had some trouble. They brought up in 2016 at the Game Developers Conference dance party. I guess there were a lot of like scantily clad ladies, and he had to issue an official apology. So that, he said, was a catalyst for them to kind of change how they approach this. And he says that he wants to help companies improve based on kind of the lessons that they themselves have learned at Xbox, and kind of sharing with them how they've done that. And he says that he doesn't think his job is to publish. His job isn't to publish. His job, he says, he doesn't think his job is to punish other companies for those kinds of things. And I can sort of respect that. I never really, as we talked about the various lawsuits and problems and allegations and things, that as a platform holder, there is a way in which you have connective tissue to these studios. And, I guess your options are to either ignore that or to try to, I guess, help, for lack of a better way to describe it. And there's a full interview over at the New York Times if you want to go over there. And they also talk about, I think I also heard from this interview that Phil Spencer also is interested in having cross-platform account bans for things, which actually I think as we've talked. Yeah, as we've talked on this podcast about the benefit and the relative desire for cross-platform gaming, each of those platforms does have different users, and you could have the same person dealing with things across multiple. So I thought that was kind of an interesting.
But usually that's centralized in a single. Like, for example, you log in through
like
Steam,
your Epic ID,
but then you log
something.
in with your EA account to play.
Yeah.
Or your Ubisoft account, So usually it's centralized in some form or fashion.
Account linking, I think, is a way that's addressed as well. So that was kind of the most significant discussion that I saw going on out in the news world. Legrand here's compiled a bunch of other things that I think also are worth talking about here. First of all, we've made a lot of bones about this whole Apple closed, walled garden sort of thing, and one of their big issues was, for example, Xbox was having trouble getting there. In fact, I don't even think it's on there yet. Did we ever get Game Pass on iOS, Legrand, as far as you know?
Yes, it's on iOS.
Okay, so they eventually did navigate that, but
it's done through the browser, so it's just a browser. You do through
that makes sense. But the rivalry between Apple and Epic Games culminated in the removal of Fortnite from the walled garden of the iOS store. Well, it turns out that Fortnite is back in POG form, as GeForce Now, which also allows people to play Fortnite, allows you to play it on your Apple device. So I don't know. I don't know what anybody thinks about this. I'm sure that they're all just like, Apple's probably
here's
like,
the problem for now. So for now, it's not touchscreen compatible. So you would have to like connect a controller to your phone.
But I played Fortnite on my
I also
iPhone.
did read on the same article that they are adding touchscreen support to
Oh,
their PC version of the game, right? Since this is effectively that.
yeah.
So that if you are playing on a phone through GeForce Now, you'll be able to use touchscreen controls. So interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. So I guess if you've been out there pining away for Fortnite on your iOS device, well, you can still play it now. So yay. NFTs have been a topic of discussion on the podcast for a few weeks now, and one of our sort of industry darlings, Troy Baker, has put his foot in his money-making mouth, apparently, I guess, by talking about including the opportunity for non-fungible tokens, NFTs, in the sort of a bid for voiceover to kind of cash in or participate, I guess, in the idea of uniquely generated and attributable content, I guess is maybe how I would say that. I don't know if that's fair. But what Troy Baker said, and this was in I guess this was just on Twitter. He kind of talked about this, and he said that using a system or a company called VoiceVerse says that it will provide unlimited perpetual access to the underlying AI voice that the NFT represents ownership of. So if you own a voice NFT, you can create voice content and you will own all of the IP, which is kind of an interesting, which seems kind of different, because I've heard even today I saw some knuckleheads thought that they bought the NFT version of the Jodorowsky's Dune, the screenplay Bible treatment that he made. If you guys have seen that documentary, which is fabulous, by the way. But it turns out that they didn't then have the rights to do anything with it. But here, I guess, according to this, you can create a lot of voice content. And we're not 100% sure exactly how that might work. But I don't know. Art has been the big locus, I guess, for NFT involvement. And here's a way of maybe some audio being involved as well.
I think that inherently an audio asset is probably more valuable than an art asset, at least as far usable in an.
I can't wait till it includes exclusive rights to make that person say things that you want.
You know, I have often thought that you could take, like, I'm sure there's some AI algorithm that could listen to this podcast and listen to all of our back catalog of podcasts in like moments, and then our voices and our inflections. You could make a really credible, like, Kanye
it could
hologram
re-record
version of
every episode, but actually good. And
whoa,
wouldn't that be weird?
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
That's all going to happen someday. Like the AI is going to be ubiquitous in society, and it's just going to be a thing.
And I, for
Like
one,
the Google
welcome our
Assistant is
AI
already-
overlords.
It's already pretty amazing, like the way that Google Assistant works and those types of things. Pretty cool.
Agreed.
Not that it's related to NFTs and Troy Baker, but whatever.
No. Well, we're not going to leave the NFTs discussion because Konami has also leapt into the NFT game by selling a JPEG, I guess, of the Castlevania, the original game sort of castle map, and they've sold it for $26,538 US dollars. And they actually sold a bunch more than that, 14 different NFT images and videos also via a platform called OpenSea. And they gathered $160,000, which is probably more than they're making on any of their pachinko. Well, I don't know how much money they make on pachinko.
Here's the question. If you owned a digital NFT of this thing, that gives you exclusive rights to use that image in whatever the hell you want. So couldn't somebody technically use that Castlevania logo and map and everything else, in whatever marketing that they want?
Like you would just take a little
they can use
of
the
that
image, but the NFT is the whole image, right? Not just parts of it. So they can't. They still don't own the trademark.
I think we're still having, like, I'll be honest, I don't understand exactly. I don't know how this stuff works, or how you can own the image but not have rights to do things with it. I mean, I think that's
the question, I suppose. That's the question that I don't think this article answers. But is that? I mean, it says right here, Konami will only be responsible for granting the use of the NFT and purchaser benefits.
But I mean, here's the thing. Like, I don't think that they could make a T-shirt with that either, or like a home poster, because that's what I would do.
Why
like,
not? That's the point. That's the whole point. Is that you bought this maybe digitally. I don't know. Like,
I don't think it conveys those rights, because I think your rights are exclusively tied to your long blockchain ID for that image. So I think whatever you can do with that is what you can do. Like, I don't think
you can print the blockchain on a T-shirt.
That'd be pretty good.
I don't know,
Like
man.
just a
I
big
think
address.
that's
Just
that
a
would be
hash.
the question.
A hash code, you know.
Wouldn't that be great? That would be kind of great. That would be some like serious like nerd subculture right there. Well, some other things that are happening in the world of digital, things kind of coming and going. PlayStation has started to phase out PS Now gift cards. PS Now, as we've described on a few occasions, is the streaming service that that PlayStation does have for their games, typically older stuff. I think it goes definitely PS3 era, PS4 era. I don't think it goes back to PS2 or PS1 I don't use this service. I've always thought about it, but I've never actually done it. But anyhow, Sony has decided that they are going to, in a message sent out to retailers in the UK, they will have to remove all of their PlayStation Now physical subscription cards by January 21st. The statement from PlayStation to IGN says that they're globally moving from PlayStation Now gift cards to focus on our current cash denomination PlayStation gift cards, which can be redeemed for PlayStation Now. So they're basically taking away the branding, but there is some thought that this may be the first step that Sony could be taking toward integrating PlayStation Now into PS Plus, the sort of general online subscription service that they use across their various platforms.
Breaking news: Sony to start selling NFT gift cards.
Oh my gosh!
PlayStation
Oh my
gift
gosh!
cards.
That actually might work. That might actually
won't.
work.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
bought
Also being
5.
phased out, Xbox 360 era games for Halo have been shut down. This is not an announcement that it will happen, but I guess an announcement that it has already been done. So the
I think we
closure of the
reported
servers
on it when it was going to be happening.
when it was announced. Yeah, there were a few of those. Soul Sacrifice on the PlayStation Vita is probably shut down by now. I thought I'd go play it, but I didn't. Anyway, so if you haven't done that, go play that. Anyhow, so they've shut that down, and they've got a new game that they want to sell you, so or a subscription service that they want to subscribe you to.
By the way, you can play all of these games, their multiplayer versions, in the Master Chief Collection. So that still exists. Just the Xbox 360 servers specific to that console.
Pro strats.
That's
I feel
they're
bad
finding
for
the
like
loopholes.
the 20 people that were still playing the 360 version, and they're like, "Oh, my world's ruined."
My brother told me today that there's still like about 20 people or so that still play Space Marine multiplayer.
Wow.
On Steam. So
I think about those remnant communities all the time, especially when I look at server population
40
numbers.
people playing UO Outlands still.
Like I always
3,000 people, man.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. But even the people who are like the little subculture, like the people who are still playing GoldenEye with like slappers only or whatever, they're probably out there, and they meet every Thursday.
No odd job,
slappers only.
Battlefield 2, pistols only. Man, those servers were great.
I know. So, folks, that is going to do it for all of our regular news. We're going to close things off with the Game Bytes Show speedrun. Start that music.
Pew, 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 pew. Oh, do we have real music now we could have played?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, well.
Jeremy always splices the music anyways.
No. I put in some real music.
It just overlays.
I'm getting the NFT.
Attempts.
I'm getting the NFT for those.
The NFT for the music.
You should buy an NFT from Troy Baker and put it in there.
I'm going to do
that. And get the rights to it.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I'm going to start it out here. Hitman 3 is getting a new rogue-like mode to live alongside their RimWorld-like mode.
Yes, I'm waiting for the RimWorld-like.
Oh, yeah.
Good callback.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Microsoft has stopped making Xbox One consoles alongside their shutdown of the Xbox 360 era Halo games, which, interesting, actually.
And in the ultimate flex, Sony is just going to make more PS4s.
This is my favorite back-to-back news articles.
I love it.
History,
well done. Well done.
PUBG is now free to play.
About 3 years too late.
That
game is insanely popular, and they're still giving like people who actually own the game like bonuses in the game somehow. I don't know what that means, but
like special chicken sounds or something.
That game is insanely popular, and it's only going to get more popular now that it's free.
Where do you think it lands in terms of like Fortnite versus PUBG?
It's right above, right below Fortnite, but just barely above UO Outlands.
This is.
I'll tell you how many.
This is
It is currently the number 3 game on Steam being played right now. It peaked at 700,000.
That's way more people than are playing Fortnite on Steam. So clearly, the winner is PUBG.
Counter-Strike Go, Dota 2, PUBG, Apex Legends are the top 4 games.
You know, sometimes I think
Apex
that we
Legends,
as video
really?
game players, we are way outside of like what people are actually interested in.
Yep.
Lords and villains, though. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I know.
Surprise, we are not like 15 years old anymore. We don't.
Well,
we're
what are
not
you
the target
talking about? Of course,
demographic.
clearly. Sega has opened a new studio. I find this interesting because, usually they are just buying studios and doing that. But Sega has opened their own studio called Sapporo Studio in Japan, which is intended to be their second base in Japan for whatever it is Sega does. It's going to be helmed by the producer of Phantasy Star Online 2. So I just find it interesting that Sega would be opening a studio at this point. But there you go.
And the plot for Fast and Furious 14 has been revealed as GPUs that were stolen in a California truck heist turn up in a Vietnam retailer.
You guys remember when we reported on this?
Yeah.
I remember that. I think there's been more
heists
of these kinds.
It's pretty funny. Final Fantasy 14 is going to be going back on sale January 25th. It's been off sale for a month and a half, month at this point.
I think they have also suspended the free trial account thing as well. So I think
they
will
are
remain.
adding more servers. They're adding in more servers to somewhere in the Pacific, the Oceania,
the
realms
Ultimisia server farm.
Yeah, they're adding more servers, and they were very transparent. They sent out a whole news article about it, or an email to everybody saying, "Hey, I know you've already got the game, but it's going back on sale, and here's what we're doing to address server congestion, et cetera, et cetera." So anyway,
good.
Yep.
Well, Elden Ring is now Steam's most wish-listed game, and I'm already tired of hearing about it.
It's like the least newsy news thing we've said. But in other news, AGDQ, Awesome Games Done Quick fundraiser done at the beginning of January every year, raised $3.4 million.
I think I've set a new record for the least minutes watched in a year of AGDQ.
I completely forgot it goes on at the beginning of January. Didn't watch.
I watched Mega Man 2, and that was it.
Really? I feel bad
because that was when I randomly turned it on.
Yeah, I always think that I want to go back and watch that, but I never do. So
there was a game that came out this last year that I was like, "This is going to be awesome to watch on AGDQ," and I didn't even. I forgot what game it was. First of all,
Solitaire.
Second of all, yeah,
mine
was not that. Let's see here. Steam Decks. Yes, those Steam Decks are still supposedly on track to be released. I think next month. Steam Decks.
That seems like really soon.
Do we know anybody who's going to have Steam Decks? Did you guys get a Steam Deck?
Do you? I mean, I guess Jared put down $5, but have you?
I put the $5 down, but I'm not going to pay for it.
Has anyone gotten any I don't know. I don't know anyone personally who. I mean, I didn't sign up for one, but I don't know anyone else that actually has.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm more interested to see. I would wait personally. I'm going to wait for reviews before I even consider one, and even then, I don't know.
So I'm going to wait for the first report of death when somebody tries to mod their Steam Deck.
I got a Microsoft Surface 7 Pro.
Whoa.
And it runs.
Steam Deck complete.
It runs UO Outlands great. And Fortnite is about to have touchscreen controls. So
you got everything. You got it all. Well, tying it back in to the whole Blizzard thing, Lego, for those of you blockheads out there, Lego has delayed Overwatch 2 playsets due to Blizzard controversy. However, I think this is because they had to change the name from McCree to Cassidy or whatever it is, and they've just got
Cowboy Man.
Yeah, Cowboy Jones is mucking up the works. Guys, that is all the news that we've got on our speed run, and that is going to do it for this episode of your Game Bytes Show podcast. I want to thank you very much for making it to the end. Even though it is dreary January, we're going to keep you informed, edified, delighted, and entertained with all of the happenings going on out there in the world of video games in succinct and informative and delicious little game bites. If you have any thoughts about the games that we have played, if you want to share with us the games that you've played, if you really think I got it wrong on Lake, if you think that the word villains should be spelled a particular way, let us know all about that. You can find us on Twitter at Game Bytes Show collectively. You can also reach out to us individually. I am at Jeremy_Lamont.
You can find me at Legrand.
I'm at Red_I.
Fourth man Dale Jones is at Count Elmdor. Of course, you can find us at youtube.com/GameBytes Show, where you can watch us live, interact with us, chat with us, make obscene gestures into your camera at us. I'm pretty sure we can see that stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
So do all of that. Like and subscribe, guys. Hit the alarm bell. Be notified when we go live. You can also find us at GameBytesShow.com, where we've got the back catalog of all of our syndicated podcasts going back 37 years of Game Bytes Show podcasts all the way back. You can also
many episodes.
There's a ton of episodes, and they're all good. Every single one of them. You don't need to re-record anything, Robot Overlords. We've got this. We've got
Skip this podcast.
That's
good.
right. That's right. We're winning. You can also find a link there, an open invitation to the Game Bytes Show server where you can come and join with us on a day-to-day basis and chit-chat with us and tell us what you've been playing. We still have a Matrix Resurrections spoiler channel on there, so we're friendly there to you folk. But I don't know. Every once in a while, a game club breaks out. Whatever. Come hang out with us. It's a lot of fun. Folks, we will be doing this thing again next week live on YouTube and in our syndicated podcast. Remember to just get involved with us. We'd love to do this for you, and we'd love you to get involved with us as well. So look forward to that. But until then, this has been your Game Bytes Show podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Be seeing you.
Nice.
If people like our video on YouTube because we're still live, you get special access to our hearts.
That's right. The NFT, you get the NFT of my heart.
NFT is not actually sold.